Hi, my name is Dr. Ujjwal Shake and I'm a physical therapist, and he is Mason Wallace, student physical therapist. And today we're going to talk about a dynamic stretching of the lower extremities, and Mason will show you some of the cool techniques.
So we're using the term dynamic stretching because we're going to be using dynamic movements to prepare the tissues for movements that you may be including in your workouts, your training sessions, or any therapeutic type of exercises. For example, we may talk about a stretch being static or dynamic. Static is your typical, I put a muscle or a joint into a position and I hold there for 30 seconds to a minute. That's not exactly what we're talking about here today. Dynamic implies that there's movement involved. Especially with these movements, we want to try and get into this position and then use the muscle to get out of it as well. So for example, a fantastic introduction to this would be a hamstring stretch. I'm staying standing. I bring my right leg up, hold it with my arms, and I kick forward to induce the stretch at the very top. I will step through, use the left, same thing here, step through, and you can do this up to 10 times, 20 times, whatever you would like. But the main thing about all of these is that they should be pain-free, and you shouldn't necessarily have to put yourself into a position where you're causing any kind of discomfort otherwise. So that's a great one for hamstrings. A second one for the hamstrings that I really like is kind of in a football position where you're going to have your forearms on your thighs, and then you're going to stretch the hamstrings by simply straightening out the knees. Okay? So from this position, I have my back in a nice neutral position, and I'm just simply going to extend my legs and straighten my knees so that I can feel the hamstring stretch here. Once again, you can do this 10 to 20 times. And then when you're done, you come back to the starting position and bring yourself back up. So one of the key things with that one is I don't want you to stop at the top and then simply bring yourself up using all of your low back. Once again, these are warm-ups. Dynamic stretching is the main key. Pain-free range, no discomfort anywhere else in the body. Another great dynamic warm-up activity that you can use, especially if you're going to be using any kicking or any type of running, sprinting, dynamic movements, is a forward lunge with an incorporated stretch that looks like this. So I bring my right leg forward, and then I want to stretch this side of my body. So I lean, I come out of it, I step through to the other side. I lean, stretch, step through to the other side. Once again, you can do that 10 to 20 times, should be completely pain-free, and that'll get you a nice good stretch through your hip flexors as well. A second dynamic warm-up stretch that you can do for the hip flexors is going to be very similar to the first one that I showed you for the hamstrings. It's just a very different movement. So I want to stretch out the hip flexor here, and I want to do it in a dynamic fashion. So what I'll do, same style of stepping through, but I bring the leg back, inducing a stretch. I use that muscle to bring the leg forward again. I step through, I do it again with the opposite leg. Now this whole time, I'm focusing on my core as well, making sure that my hips are not dipping, making sure that my pelvis is still in good alignment, and I'm not really arching my back too far. This is not necessarily a movement that you want to do to increase range or to really see how far back you can crank your leg. That's not what's important here. Once again, we're preparing the tissues so that you can do your training later on. So finally, pain-free. There should be no discomfort in other parts of your body, and this is preparing the tissue for your other movements.